In this video, we're going over the concepts for Chapter 14, which is titled Lipids. The word lipids comes from the Greek word lipos, which means fat. Lipids are important biomolecules, and they have a variety of functions in many organisms, including humans. Some of the functions that lipids have include being the precursors of hormones. Lipids help in digestion. They provide storage of energy. They provide metabolic fuel. And they are part of structures of cells, specifically cell membranes. Lipids can be classified because of their physical properties. Lipids specifically are going to be biological compounds that are soluble in non-polar solvents. This means that lipids are non-polar molecules. The ability of lipids to be hydrolyzed, or in other words, saponifiable, also can include the ability for them to be classified based on that observation. When it comes to saponifiable lipids, we can have simple lipids versus complex lipids. As you can see in the flowchart in figure 14.3, when it comes to the saponifiable simple lipids, we have waxes and triglycerides. These simple saponifiable, or in other words, hydrolyzable lipids, are going to have an ester bond, and the components of the ester bond that are found in these structures are going to be an alcohol or fatty acids. We can also have saponifiable or hydrolyzable lipids that are complex. And when it comes to that, we have phosphoglycerides and sphingolipids. A complex lipid is going to also have ester-containing lipids, but there's going to be more components to it. Other than the alcohol and the fatty acids, we will observe in this chapter that there's other components in their structure. We can also have lipids that are non-saponifiable, meaning that they cannot be hydrolyzed. And when it comes to the non-saponifiable lipids, we have steroids and prostaglandins. Because lipids are going to be, at least some of them, composed of fatty acids, we are first going to discuss what is fatty acids and their structure. Fatty acids are usually straight chain carboxylic acids. They do not have branches. The most common fatty acids range from 10 to 20 carbon atoms. They have even number of carbons, and they include a carboxyl group at one of their carbons. Fatty acids can be saturated because in the structure, we do not see double bonds between the carbon atoms, but we can also have fatty acids that are unsaturated, and unsaturated fatty acids are going to have one or more double bond carbons in their structure. It is important to note that unsaturated fatty acids, because they have specifically carbon-carbon bonds that are double bonded, they can exist as a cis configuration and as a trans configuration. But it is important to recall that when it comes to specifically fatty acids that are unsaturated in nature, cis configuration is the most common. In table 14.1, we have a summary of some important fatty acids. And we can see that in this table, they are organized by looking at the compound type and their number of carbons. We have the name of the fatty acid. We have their chemical formula. We also have a melting point, and we have the common sources where these fatty acids can be found. Additionally, we have the categories of these fatty acids in terms of being saturated, monounsaturated, because the prefix mono means one. The monounsaturated fatty acids will have only one carbon-carbon double bond. And for those structures, we can see them here and here. And we also have polyunsaturated fatty acids. Those are the ones that have two or more carbon-carbon double bonds in their structure. When we look closely at the polyunsaturated, understand that in this table, we have these structures written in condensed form. So when we look closely, just to give you an example, at linoleic acid, when we look at its structure, it may appear at first to your eyes that there's only one double bond. But the thing is that since outside of the parentheses, we have a digit of 2, that means that there are 2 double bonds in the structure. Understand that this COOH is another way to write the carboxyl group, because this can also be written in the following way to represent the carboxylic acid or carboxyl group that are part of fatty acids. And all of these molecules have that C double bond O, single bond to OH. We also have a specific designation called omega that is found in unsaturated fatty acids. The omega term of the fatty acids is going to represent what is the first carbon in the carbon-carbon double bond in unsaturated fatty acids. That being said, when it comes to determining the omega term, we must see that when we number the carbon chain, we are not going to do it starting from the carboxyl group. You have to do it from the opposite end within your fatty acid. Let's look at the example of linolenic acid. In linolenic acid, when we're numbering the carbons to determine the omega designation, notice that we're going to start at the opposite end from the carboxyl group. So this is carbon 1, this is carbon 2, this is carbon 3, this is carbon 4. And since carbon 3 is the first carbon in the double bond, it is known that linolenic acid is an omega 3 fatty acid. Let's look at the example of linoleic acid, which this fatty acid specifically is going to be an omega-6. As you can see, we're going to start numbering our carbon chain from the opposite end away from the carboxyl group. So this is carbon 1, carbon 2, carbon 3, carbon 4, carbon 5, and carbon 6 and carbon 7. Since carbon 6 is the first carbon in the carbon-carbon double bond, then it is known that linoleic acid is an omega-6 fatty acid. Omega-6, omega-3 fatty acids, or specifically in the case of these unsaturated fatty acids that have omegas, it is that important that they are obtained from diet. Studies have suggested that omega-3 fatty acids found in the oil of fish may decrease cholesterol and triglycerides level. When it comes to fatty acids, we have a subset of fatty acids that are known as essential fatty acids. An essential fatty acid is a fatty acid that is needed in the body, but is not synthesized within the body. In the human body, we can synthesize all fatty acids, but there are two that are needed to obtain from diet. The two fatty acids that are essential in the human body and they need to be obtained from the diet because they cannot be synthesized are going to be linoleic acid and linolenic acid. These are examples of polyunsaturated fatty acids, and they each of them contain 18 carbons. In the body, we don't have the biomolecules to synthesize polyunsaturated fatty acids, and that's why they must be obtained from diet, and they are very necessary. Because as we can see, when it comes to polyunsaturated fatty acids, they are going to be regulating functions in the body, including blood pressure, blood clotting, blood lipid levels. They are part of the immune response, and they can even be part of the inflammation response. So that's why these essential fatty acids are needed in the human body.